I never thought I'd be writing this post, but here I am at 2 a.m., sitting on the floor of my new apartment with only a mattress, a laptop, and Max curled up beside me. 1 week ago, I had what most would consider a normal life. Today, I'm starting. Over with just the essentials and my dog, the same dog my mother tried to have killed while I was away on business. He barked too much, she'd shrugged when I returned, like she was talking about returning a sweater that didn't fit right. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just went to the shelter, collected my proof, and walked away from the only mother I'd ever known. Now she's blowing up my phone with tear-filled voicemails, but some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. It started last Monday when I flew to Chicago for a week-long conference my company was hosting. I work as a systems architect for a mid-sized tech company, not glamorous, but it pays well enough that I've been covering most of my mother's mortgage and bills while living with her, temporarily, after my lease ended last year. The plan was to save for my own place, but somehow every time I got close, another emergency would drain my savings. Max, my 3-year-old chocolate lab, stayed home with Mom. I'd had him since he was 8 weeks old, rescued him after finding him abandoned near a dumpster behind my old apartment complex. He was my shadow, my confidant through a rough breakup, multiple job changes, and the general chaos of my late 20s. Before leaving, I'd made detailed arrangements, prepaid for a dog walker to come twice daily, left perfectly portioned meals. In labeled containers, wrote out his medication schedule for his mild hip dysplasia in clear, bold letters on the refrigerator. I even created a shared Google Calendar with reminders set to ping my mother's phone. "We'll be fine," she'd said, barely looking up from her Real Housewives marathon. "It's just a dog, not a baby." When I landed at LAX on Sunday night, I texted that I was grabbing an Uber. No response. Not unusual. Mom was never great with phones. The house was quiet when I arrived, no thundering paws or excited barking greeting me at the door. "Mom?" I called out, dropping my carry-on in the hallway. "Where's Max?" She was in the kitchen, sipping her ever-present glass of Chardonnay. Not her first of the evening, judging by the flush in her cheeks. "Oh, you're back," she said, as if I'd just stepped out for milk instead of being gone for a week. "How was Chicago? Windy, I bet." "Where's Max?" I repeated, a cold feeling settling in my stomach. She took another sip, avoiding my eyes. "I took him to the shelter on Wednesday. He was barking all night, keeping me and the neighbors up." She said it so casually, like she was telling me she'd picked up my dry cleaning. I stood there, unable to process her words. "You... what?" "The shelter. On Willow Street." He was too much trouble, barking at every little noise. Mrs. Peterson next door complained twice. She shrugged, actually shrugged, and added, "It's just a dog. You can always get another one." My whole body went cold, then hot with rage. Max wasn't just a dog. He was family, my family. I'd bottle-fed him when he was found malnourished. I'd slept on the floor next to him after his hip surgery last year. He had a spot on the couch that was permanently indented to the shape of his body. He had toys and sweaters and a special orthopedic bed that cost more than my mother's precious Pottery Barn throw pillows. "Which shelter?" I managed to ask, my voice unnaturally calm even as my hands shook. "Willow Street Animal Services. But they're closed now. It's nearly 8. You can go tomorrow if you really want to, but honestly, honey, it's for the best. This place isn't big enough for a dog that size anyway." She turned back to her wine, discussion over in her mind. I walked upstairs in a daze, opened my laptop, and searched for the shelter's information. They opened at 8 a.m. I set my alarm, got into bed fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling all night, my mind racing between panic for Max and pure, white-hot fury. At my mother updated. "Thanks for all the supportive comments on my first post. Many of you asked if I found Max, and if my mother had any history of this behavior. Both questions have complex answers I'll get into below. Has anyone else experienced such a profound betrayal from a parent? I've never had an easy relationship with my mother. Growing up, it was just the two of us after my dad left when I was 4, something she never let me forget. I sacrificed everything for you, was her constant refrain whenever I disappointed her, which seemed to be often. My room was never clean enough, my grades never high enough, My friend's never good enough. When I got a scholarship to a state university instead of her alma mater, she didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. When I chose computer science over law school, she told relatives I was wasting my potential. After college, I moved out immediately, craving the freedom. But 3 years later, when my mother needed surgery for a benign tumor, I came back to help for what was supposed to be a few weeks. Those weeks turned into months as she claimed complications, dizziness, inability to manage the stairs alone. The doctors found nothing wrong, but guilt kept me there. Then my lease ended, and it seemed practical to save money by staying. Just until I find a new place, I told myself. That's when I got Max. I'd always wanted a dog, but Mom said they were messy, noisy nuisances. One rainy night, I heard whimpering from behind the dumpsters. He was tiny, soaking wet, ribs showing through his chocolate fur. The vet said he was about 8 weeks old, abandoned and malnourished, but otherwise healthy. He needs someone, the vet said. Might as well be you. Mom was livid. You didn't even ask me. This is my house. But something in me had changed. For once, I stood my ground. I pay half the mortgage and all the utilities, I reminded her. If you don't want him here, I'll find another place. She backed down, but her resentment was palpable. Max became my world. He slept in my room, went to work with me when our office became pet-friendly, joined me on hikes and beach trips. He had a naturally joyful personality that won over everyone except my mother. She refused to pet him, complained about his hair on the furniture, grimaced when he'd excitedly bring her his toys. It's just an animal, she'd say dismissively. I don't understand this bizarre attachment, but Max wasn't just an animal to me. He was unconditional love in a world where I'd never known that concept. He didn't care about my salary or my relationship status or whether I'd gained a few pounds over the holidays. He was simply happy I existed. And now, because of her callous decision, he was in a high-kill shelter that euthanized after 5 days. I'd been gone 7. As soon as the shelter opened on Monday morning, I was there, practically banging on the door. A tired-looking woman with a name tag reading Gloria greeted me. I'm looking for my dog, I blurted, showing her Max's picture on my phone. My mother brought him here last Wednesday. Brown Labrador, about 60 pounds, has a small white patch on his chest. Gloria's expression changed, became guarded. Let me check our intake records. She disappeared into an office, leaving me pacing the lobby, rehearsing how I'd beg, what I'd pay, what strings I'd pull to get him back. When she returned, her face was grim. Come with me, she said, leading me to a small conference room. I remember this dog. Your mother brought him in, wanted him euthanized immediately. My blood turned to ice. What? Gloria nodded. She claimed he was aggressive, had bitten several people, including a child, wanted him put down, not put up for adoption. She studied my face carefully. But something seemed off. The dog was sweet, didn't show any signs of aggression during assessment. And there was no report filed with animal control, which is standard procedure for bite cases. I couldn't breathe. My own mother had tried to have Max killed. Not rehomed, not taken to a no-kill rescue. Killed. We have a required 72-hour hold before euthanasia, even for owner surrenders claiming aggression, Gloria continued. And during that time, one of our vets recognized him from your social media. You'd brought him to a fundraiser here last summer. I remembered that day. Max had charmed everyone, wearing a little bandana, gently taking treats from children's hands. The vet knew something wasn't right, so we ran his microchip. Gloria's expression softened. It was registered to you, not your mother. That's when we knew something was wrong. We've been trying to reach you, but the contact information was outdated. Is he? My voice broke. Please tell me he's still here. Gloria actually smiled then. He's here. We've been keeping him safe. Let me take you to him. The moment Max saw me, he erupted into joyful barking, his entire body wiggling with happiness. He almost knocked me over as I knelt to hug him, burying my face in his fur, breathing in his familiar dog smell mixed with shelter disinfectant. I hadn't realized I was crying until I felt his tongue licking the tears from my cheeks. "I'm so sorry, buddy," I whispered. "I'm never leaving you again." As Gloria helped me with the paperwork, she hesitated. "We've flagged your mother in our system. She can't adopt from us in the future, but..." She looked uncomfortable. "You should know we're required to report attempted fraudulent euthanasia to animal control. They may follow up." I nodded numbly, signing the release forms. "Thank you for saving him." "He's a good dog," Gloria said simply. "He didn't deserve that. And neither did you." Driving home with Max beside me, his head hanging happily out the window, I made a decision. We weren't going back to my mother's house, not to stay. I pulled into the driveway only to pack what we needed. My mother's car wasn't there, probably, at her weekly hair appointment. Good. I didn't trust what I might say to her face. I packed methodically: clothes, laptop, important documents, the external hard drive with all my photos, Max's bed, his medications, his favorite toys. As I worked, I called a friend who managed an apartment complex. "Any vacancies?" I asked, explaining the situation in brief terms. "Actually, yes. Had a tenant break lease last week. 1 bedroom, pet-friendly, available immediately. It's not fancy, but it's clean." "I'll take it," I said without hesitation. "I can be there in 2 hours with the deposit." I was loading the last of my stuff into my Honda when my mother's Lexus pulled into the driveway. She got out, her freshly styled hair immobile despite the breeze, her face shifting from confusion to anger when she spotted Max in the backseat of my car. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded. I closed the trunk. "Leaving." "Don't be ridiculous. Where would you go? And I see you got that dog back." "Well, he can't stay here anymore. I've already told the neighbors he's gone." I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who had brought me into the world, who had raised me, who had also criticized and belittled and undermined me at every turn, who had just tried to have my dog killed out of spite or convenience, or simply because she could. "You're right," I said calmly. "He's not staying here. Neither am I." Her expression shifted, alarm replacing anger. "What are you talking about? You can't leave. What about the mortgage payment? It's due next week." And there it was. Not "I'll miss you," or "I'm sorry," or "please stay." Just concern about the money I contributed, the support I provided that she'd come to take for granted. "I know when it's due," I said. "I've been paying it for the last 1.5 years, along with the utilities, the gardener, and the property. Taxes. You're on your own now." Updated, I'm overwhelmed by your responses and support. A few asked if I've spoken to my mother since leaving. Unfortunately, yes, and it went exactly as expected. Others wondered about the financial fallout. I'll address everything below. Have you ever discovered someone's true character only after they thought you were powerless? The next few days were a blur of practicalities. The apartment wasn't much, a 1-bedroom with beige carpeting and outdated appliances. But it was mine, and Max's. I scrounged together enough for the security deposit and first month's rent, bought an air mattress, borrowed a folding table from my friend, and set up my laptop to work remotely. My boss was surprisingly understanding when I explained I needed a few days to sort out a family emergency. Living simply was nothing new to me. Between college dorms and my first shoebox apartment in LA, I knew how to make do. On my 3rd night, in the new place, my mother finally realized I wasn't coming back. The calls started at 7 p.m., one after another, increasing in urgency. I let them go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me around the 10th call. Her voice was tight with panic. "You need to come home right now. I just got an overdraft. Notice from the bank. I don't have enough for the mortgage payment. Whatever little tantrum you're throwing needs to end." This isn't funny anymore. Tantrum. As if I were a child acting out, not an adult responding to an unforgivable breach of trust. I deleted the message and blocked her number. The next day, while I was setting up my makeshift workstation at the folding table, there was a sharp knock at the door. Max raised his head, alert but not barking. Another reason my mother's claim of his excessive barking was absurd. He was one of the quietest labs I'd ever known, only vocal when actually threatened. Through the peephole, I saw my Uncle Robert, my mother's brother. Reluctantly, I opened the door. "She sent you to do her dirty work?" I asked without preamble. Robert looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "She's a mess, kid. Says you've abandoned her, that you stole money from her accounts." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Did she tell you why I left? Did she mention trying to have my dog killed while I was away?" His eyes widened slightly. So she'd left that part out. She said something about taking him to a shelter because he was disruptive. She told the shelter he was aggressive and needed to be euthanized. She lied about him biting people, including a child. They would have killed him if he hadn't been microchipped with my information. I crossed my arms. And as for money, I've been paying her mortgage, utilities, and property taxes for over a year. Check her bank statements if you don't believe me. Robert's expression shifted, doubt creeping in. He'd always been more reasonable than my mother, though they shared the same stubborn streak. "I didn't know that. There's a lot she's not telling you. Look, I'm sorry she dragged you into this, but I'm not coming back. She crossed a line that can't be uncrossed." He studied my face, then nodded slowly. "I believe you. For what it's worth, I'm sorry." After he left, I sat on the floor next to Max, stroking his silky ears. "Just you and me now, buddy. We'll figure it out." The following week, I received formal notice from the bank that the automatic mortgage payment from my account had been attempted and failed since I'd closed that particular joint account. I also got an email from the utility company about an overdue notice sent to my mother's address. I forwarded these to my lawyer. Yes, I'd hired one, using most of my remaining savings, with instructions to make it clear. These were now her responsibilities alone. My mother's reaction was predictable. Unable to reach me by phone, she sent a barrage of emails, alternating between fury and tearful pleas. "How could you do this to your own mother, after everything I've sacrificed for you? Please come home. I miss you. I'm sorry about the dog." I wasn't thinking clearly. The bank called about foreclosure. "Is that what you want? To see your mother homeless? You ungrateful brat. After I raised you alone, this is how you repay me?" My lawyer advised me not to respond to any of it, and I followed that advice. But each message twisted the knife a little deeper, reinforcing that I'd made the right decision. Not once did she acknowledge the real issue. She had attempted to destroy something I loved out of spite, convenience, or simple indifference to my feelings. The most telling message came 3 weeks after I'd left. I spoke to Mrs. Peterson. "She says she never complained about Max barking. Why would you make up such a story?" She was still lying, still manipulating, still refusing to take responsibility. I hadn't spoken to Mrs. Peterson. My mother was the one who'd claimed the neighbor complained. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My mother wasn't just manipulative, she was pathological. She would twist reality itself rather than admit wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Max and I settled into our new routine. The apartment complex had a small dog park where he made friends with a one-eyed beagle named Captain and a hyperactive poodle mix. I found a vet closer to our new place, explained our situation, and got his hip medication refilled. At night, he slept next to my air mattress, his solid warmth a reassuring presence in this unfamiliar space. Slowly, our new apartment began to feel like home. I bought a real bed frame from IKEA, splurged on decent sheets from Target, found a secondhand couch that didn't smell too much like its previous owner, hung up some framed photos, none featuring my mother, set up a proper desk for remote work. Days. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours, a space where no one could take away what mattered to us. 6 weeks after our escape, I ran into Mrs. Peterson at a coffee shop near my mother's neighborhood. I'd gone back to the area to see my old barber, creatures of habit we can be. She recognized me immediately, her face lighting up. "Oh, it's so good to see you," she said, touching my arm. "And how's that sweet dog of yours? Your mother told me he passed away suddenly. I was heartbroken for you." I stared at her, processing this new lie. "Max is fine, very much alive. My mother tried to have him euthanized while I was traveling for work. That's why I moved out." Mrs. Peterson's hand flew to her mouth. "My God, that's horrible. She told everyone you moved to take care of a sick relative. No sick relative. Just escaping a toxic situation. She shook her head, visibly disturbed. I always thought she was difficult. But this is beyond difficult. Did you ever complain about Max barking? I asked, already knowing the answer. Never. He's one of the quietest dogs I've ever known. Nothing like that yappy chihuahua at the end of the block. She hesitated. You know, after you left, she had a small breakdown. The women's group at church has been taking turns bringing her meals, checking on her. She told everyone you abandoned her out of the blue, that you emptied her bank accounts. I wasn't surprised. My mother had always been skilled at playing the victim, at turning situations to gain sympathy. None of that is true. I was paying most of her bills. When I left, I simply stopped. Mrs. Peterson squeezed my arm. For what it's worth, I believe you, and I'm glad Max is okay. That night, I dreamt of my childhood home. In the dream, I was searching for something important in empty rooms, opening closets and drawers while my mother watched silently from doorways, her expression unreadable. I woke to Max gently licking my face as if he sensed my distress. It's okay, buddy, I whispered, stroking his head. We're okay now. 2 months after leaving, I received a letter forwarded through my lawyer. The envelope held a check and a maig, handwritten note. I've listed the house for sale. This is your share of the down payment you contributed last year. I don't expect you'll forgive me, but you should have what's rightfully yours. Your mother. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just a transaction, closing the books on our relationship like a business deal gone bad. I stared at the check for a long time before depositing it. Not because I felt guilty taking it, it was, as she'd stated, rightfully mine, but because it represented a final severing of ties. With those funds, I put a down payment on a small condo, a place with a yard where Max could sunbathe to his heart's content. I'm writing this from our new home, watching Max chase squirrels in our modest backyard. He's happy, oblivious to how close he came to never experiencing this simple joy. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about my mother, wondering if she ever truly understands what she did, if she feels genuine remorse or just regret at losing her financial support system. But those thoughts come less frequently now. The phone calls eventually stopped. The emails dwindled. Through the family grapevine, I heard she sold the house and moved in with a cousin in Arizona. She sends birthday cards with gift cards inside, her way of maintaining a connection without actually addressing the elephant in the room. I don't use the gift cards. Some part of me feels like accepting them would be tacitly forgiving what she did, and I'm not there yet. Maybe I never will be. People ask if I miss her. The honest answer is complicated. I miss the mother I should have had, the one who would have loved Max simply because I did. But that mother never existed except in my wishful thinking. The real one tried to have my dog killed out of convenience or spite. The real one lied about it afterwards. The real one never once said I'm sorry without following it with but and a justification. So Max and I continue our life together, our little family of 2. He's gray around the muzzle now, moving a bit slower with his hip dysplasia, but his eyes still light up when I grab the leash for our daily walks. Every night he sleeps at the foot of my bed, snoring softly. Sometimes, when he's dreaming, his paws twitch as if he's running through sun-dappled fields, chasing infinite squirrels, completely safe and utterly loved. As he should be. As we all should be. Updated. It's been a year since I wrote this post. Max is doing great, his hip is stable with medication, and he's still the goodest boy. My mother sent a Christmas card last month with another gift card. Still no real apology. I finally changed my number. Have you ever cut someone toxic out of your life and felt guilty about it, even when you knew it was the right thing to do?